My name is Michael Nyberg. I am the Chair of War Studies here at the U.S. Army War College. I'm an historian by training, and I focus primarily on the First and Second World Wars. I have two research interests, really. One is on the period of the two world wars from about 1914 to 1945 in global context. And the other one really is how states get into wars and how states get out of wars, both nations and states. How do societies prepare for war? How do they think about war? And what do they do when that war is over and have to transition back into the peace? And those, I think, are the two really big academic questions that I've had in my mind. What have been the impacts of the two world wars, both globally and in some cases locally? And then how do societies get into wars? What do they do when they get out of wars? I was in a car accident when I was 18 years old, so I registered for classes late when I got to college. I took a course called 20th Century American Wars as Social Experience, which was the only class left at the time that I could take it. And I was fascinated by the professor's approach that you could study the history of war without really caring about machines and guns and battles, which I didn't really care about, ironically, given where I am now. But I was really fascinated by these questions. What does it mean to an individual that he or she served in the military? What does it mean to a society that it went through either a successful experience in war or maybe a not successful experience in war? What does that mean for the life course of individuals and states? And that question's been kind of banging around my head ever since, but I have no idea how it got there, and I have no idea how I'm going to get rid of it. I hope the students take away, one, that history is incredibly complicated, and it's easy to pick and choose and cherry pick your history to support a political or a military position that you want to pick. But to understand how unbelievably complicated the past is, it's not something you can treat solely for entertainment or as answers to Jeopardy questions. You have to really think deeply about what you think went on in the past, because it is, of course, the past that created the environment that we're in. And the second thing I really hope students get out is that different societies, different groups within those societies interpret their history differently. And it doesn't actually matter whether their interpretation is correct or incorrect. You have to understand that they're going to understand their past different than you do. And that affects the way that they think in the present. So it isn't good enough to come in and say to another society, well, no, this is really what happened. You have to have your ears open and listen to the way that they understand their own history. And you have to understand the way that they're conceiving of how their past has made them what they are in their present. History can be a really important critical thinking skill. It can help you to shape your own brain. It can help you to think about the ways in which you need to think deeply and critically about things. So I recommend students read a lot of history. I recommend they think carefully about the history that they're reading. And I recommend too that when they're doing that, they're thinking about those connections. They're thinking about the strengths and weaknesses of historical analogies. Because the other danger with history is that people will reach back to a simple analogy and say, well, today is just like this time in history. And it's never quite that simple. And the more you read and the more you understand, I think the easier it is intellectually to figure those things out.